All right, let's dive in. Uh, Today we're looking at the flower of life, this ancient symbol that's been around for like, what, thousands of years.
Mhm.
And we've got some pretty interesting sources for this one, like some historical stuff, but also some, Terrence Howard, the
Yeah.
actor, yeah, adding a little bit of Hollywood to the mix today. So get ready. We've got a lot to unpack. The secrets of the flower of life, Terrence Howard's take on it, and even what modern science has to say.
I think what really gets me is how we're kind of bridging ancient symbols with like cutting edge physics, you know? This symbol, the flower of life, it's found in so many cultures going back so far. And then you have someone like Terrence Howard, who's known for acting, suddenly getting deep into it. It's definitely got me curious.
Okay, so for those who might not be familiar with the flower of life, picture this. A bunch of circles all overlapping perfectly, almost like a honeycomb. And get this, it's etched into the walls of the Temple of Osiris in Egypt. We're talking over 6,000 years old. And it also shows up under those, what are they called? Those fufu dogs guarding the forbidden temples in China. I mean, cultures across the globe, totally separated, all seem to recognize its importance. What do you make of that?
It's pretty wild, right? Like, it makes you think there's something about this pattern that speaks to us, deep down, maybe a universal language, regardless of like where you're from or when you lived.
That's a really interesting thought. And it wasn't just ancient civilizations.
Ah.
Even Leonardo da Vinci, the ultimate Renaissance man, he was obsessed with the flower of life, studied it, sketched it, even put it in his Codex Atlanticus.
Da Vinci, he was all about finding that mathematical perfection in nature. And he definitely saw that in the flower of life. And he wasn't alone, that Drinvalo Melchizedek guy. He wrote The Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life. He thought it was way more than just pretty. He believed it showed the actual process of creation. He linked it to the Genesis story, the tree of life, even how cells divide.
Okay, so we're talking about a symbol that some people believe could be a blueprint to understanding the universe. And this is where Terrence Howard comes in. You probably know him from, well, Iron Man or Empire. But what you might not know is that he's super into the flower's life, like after Empire ended. He said he was quitting acting to focus on his discoveries about it.
Whoa, that's a big career change. What exactly did he, discover?
Well, he was pretty bold about it. He claimed he opened up the flower of life, uncovering secrets hidden for 10,000 years. He even made his own math system called Teriology, where, and get this, 1 equals 2. He even said he'd walk on water for tips to prove he was right.
1 equals 2. That's a lot to take in. No wonder the science world's a bit skeptical. I mean, that goes against some pretty basic math, right? Can you explain like what he meant by that?
Well, as far as I understand it, Howard thinks our math is, like, incomplete. He thinks 1 doesn't really capture how everything's connected, the duality. And that 2 represents that, the push and pull of opposing forces. Honestly, I'm still trying to wrap my head around it myself.
Yeah, I get that. It's definitely not your everyday math. But hey, even if his math ideas are out there, you can't deny his passion for the flower of life. It's obviously touched him deeply.
Totally. And it wasn't just the math that got him going. He talks a lot about the void, too, the space between things. We usually think of it as empty, but Howard says it's full of unseen energy. Now, that might sound crazy, but here's the interesting part. That idea of the void being full of energy actually kind of lines up with some really cutting-edge science.
Are you talking about Nassim Harameyn's work?
Exactly. His research really supports Howard's intuition about the void.
What's really fascinating is that we're seeing potential links between this ancient symbol, a Hollywood actor's gut feeling, and actual physics. It really makes you wonder if there's something more to the flower of life than we realize. It's like we're seeing these different worlds collide, ancient wisdom bumping into modern science.
So tell me more about this Nassim Haramein guy. What did he find that backs up this whole void full of energy thing? It sounds kind of sci-fi to me.
Well, his theories get pretty deep into physics, but I'll try to keep it simple. I imagine the space between atoms, right? We usually think of it as, well, nothing. But Haramein says it's actually buzzing with energy. He calls it vacuum fluctuation.
Wait, so you're saying even empty space is full of something?
Exactly. His theory says that in this void, tiny particles are constantly popping in and out of existence, like little sparks of energy appearing and disappearing. And here's the crazy part. This vacuum fluctuation has actually been measured in labs.
Whoa. So emptiness isn't really empty after all. But how does this tie back to the flower of life? Is there something in the symbol itself that hints at this hidden energy?
That's where things get really interesting. Some people think the overlapping circles in the flower of life, with the spaces between them and where they intersect, they might represent how everything's connected in the universe. including this hidden energy field. It's like the symbols trying to show us that everything's linked, even the seemingly empty parts.
So you're saying these ancient cultures, maybe they intuitively grasped this profound truth about the universe, and now modern physics is catching up. That's mind-blowing.
It definitely challenges how we usually see things. We're so used to thinking of the universe as separate objects with empty space between them. But what if, like Howard and Harriman say, this emptiness is actually the source of everything?
Okay, now my head's spinning. So instead of a universe built from solid stuff, we're imagining a universe where this energy field, this void, is the foundation. It's like flipping reality inside out.
Exactly. And it's not just the energy itself. Harriman takes it even further. He says this energy field is structured in a specific way, following geometric patterns that look like, you guessed it, the flower of life.
Hold on. Are you saying the flower of life isn't just a pretty design, but an actual blueprint of the universe, showing how this energy is organized at the most basic level?
That's one way to interpret it, and it's pretty convincing. I mean, think about it. The flower of life, with its repeating patterns and perfect geometry, it could be a visual representation of how energy creates everything around us.
So we've gone from an ancient symbol to a potential map of the universe. But if that's true, why haven't we cracked the code yet? I mean, thousands of years, brilliant minds like Da Vinci studying it. What are we missing?
That's the million-dollar question, right? Maybe we're looking at it the wrong way. Maybe we need a new kind of math, a new language to really understand it.
So there could be a whole other dimension to the flower of life, something we haven't even begun to explore. And maybe Terrence Howard, even with his unique methods, is onto something with his focus on the void and redefining math.
It's definitely possible. You got to admire his passion and his willingness to challenge the norm, even if some of his ideas are, well, a little out there.
But if his ideas are so revolutionary, why hasn't the scientific community embraced them? I mean, 1 = 2. That's a tough one to swallow.
Well, science is usually pretty cautious, especially with radical new ideas. Howard's claims are pretty extraordinary, and extraordinary claims need extraordinary evidence.
So what kind of evidence would convince the science world?
It would take rigorous testing, peer review, other scientists checking his work, and others being able to replicate his findings. It's not enough to just say, you've unlocked the universe's secrets. You got to have proof that others can verify.
So as inspiring as his passion is, we need to be a bit skeptical until there's solid evidence.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance. Being open to new ideas, but also being critical, especially when those ideas haven't been thoroughly tested. That's how science moves forward, and how we avoid getting caught up in ideas that sound cool but might not actually hold up.
It's like walking a tightrope between open-mindedness and critical thinking. We don't want to dismiss something just because it's unusual, but we also don't want to believe something blindly.
You got it. And that's what makes this so fascinating. We're dealing with a symbol that's captivated people for centuries, a symbol that might hold deep truths about the universe. We're seeing how ancient wisdom and modern science might be coming together to give us a new understanding of reality. And we're wrestling with how to evaluate extraordinary claims that challenge everything we thought we knew.
It's a journey that takes us to the edge of what we know, pushing us to think bigger and consider things we never imagined before.
And that's the beauty of a deep dive like this. It's not about finding all the answers. It's about exploring the unknown, asking tough questions, and embracing the mystery.
So where do we go from here? We've talked about the flower of life as a potential blueprint of the universe, explored Terrence Howard's controversial interpretations, and touched on Nassim Harameyn's groundbreaking theories. What does all this mean for the average person listening?
That's the key question, isn't it? What does it all mean for you? I think one of the big takeaways is the power of curiosity. We see Terrence Howard, an actor, diving into complex science, challenging conventional thinking. That same curiosity is within all of us.
It reminds us that learning never stops. And you don't have to be a scientist or scholar to engage with these ideas. We all have the ability to ask questions, to seek knowledge, and connect the dots in our own way.
Exactly. And another takeaway is the potential for things to come together, things that seem totally different. We saw how ancient wisdom, artistic inspiration, and modern science can all point to similar truths about reality.
So we don't have to choose between science and spirituality, logic and intuition. We can embrace both, realizing they might be two sides of the same coin.
Exactly. And lastly, I think this deep dive encourages us to question what we think we know. We tend to think of space as empty, matter as solid, and the universe as a bunch of separate things. But what if, like Howard and Harriman suggest, everything is connected, energy is the foundation? And the void is actually full of potential.
It's like we're being asked to rethink the very fabric of reality, to see the universe not as a static machine, but as this dynamic, interconnected web of energy and information.
And that change in perspective can be really empowering. It opens up new possibilities, challenges us to think outside the box, and reminds us that there's always more to discover, always more to learn.
We've covered a lot today, but this is really just the start of the exploration. We talked about the flower of life as a potential map of the universe, but maybe it's also a mirror, reflecting our own desire to understand where we come from and where we're going.
And that brings us back to you, the listener. What resonates with you most from what we've talked about? What questions has this deep dive sparked for you? Maybe you're curious about the geometry of the flower of life, or intrigued by Haramain's theories about the connected universe.
That's the beauty of it, right? It's not about getting definitive answers. It's about sparking curiosity, inviting you to explore, and encouraging you to continue the journey on your own. What if the flower of life is just one piece of a much bigger puzzle? What other symbols, patterns, ancient wisdom might hold clues to the universe's greatest secrets?
Perhaps this deep dive has planted a seed, an idea that will grow as you explore these fascinating topics.
And who knows? Maybe you'll be the one to make the next big discovery, connecting the dots in a way no one has before. After all, we saw how Terrence Howard, coming from a totally different background, can bring fresh perspectives and challenge how we think.
Remember, the universe is full of mysteries, and the only limit to our understanding is our own imagination. So keep an open mind, stay curious, and never underestimate the power of a good question.
Okay, welcome back to the final part of our deep dive. I gotta say, after all that, ancient temples, cutting-edge physics, I'm feeling a little like I just got out of a time machine. A little disoriented, but definitely energized.
Yeah, I get what you mean. It's pretty amazing how one symbol can take you on such a journey, making you question everything you thought you knew and opening up so many possibilities.
So let's try to sum this all up for our listener. We've got this ancient symbol, the flower of life, showing up everywhere across time and cultures. We explored Terrence Howard's interpretations, the whole void is energy thing. And we connected that to Nassim Haramein's scientific theories, vacuum fluctuation, interconnected universe, all that. So what's the big takeaway here? What does it all mean for the everyday person?
Well, I think there are a few key things we can learn from all of this. First, it shows how powerful observation and intuition can be. Ancient cultures, they didn't have modern science, but they still recognized something special about the flower of life. They saw it as a symbol of creation, connection, the patterns of the universe.
Yeah, and it's like Terrence Howard, even coming from acting, he's tapping into that same intuitive understanding.
Exactly. He might be unconventional, but he shows that profound insights. They can come from anywhere. You don't need to be a scientist to wonder about the universe and ask big questions.
So it's not just about knowing the facts. It's about being curious, looking deeper, seeing how everything's connected.
Absolutely. And speaking of connection, another key takeaway is how different fields can come together. We saw how ancient wisdom, artistic inspiration, and modern science can all point towards the same truths about the universe.
It's like we're starting to see a bigger picture, where science and spirituality, art and math, they're not separate, but different ways of looking at the same reality.
Yeah, and that's pretty exciting, right? It means we don't have to choose between logic and intuition, reason and faith. We can embrace it all, seeing how they might actually complement each other.
So maybe the flower of life, with its intricate geometry and all its symbolism, it can act as a bridge between these different ways of knowing. A reminder that the universe is way more complex than we can ever fully understand.
I think that's a beautiful way to put it. And finally, this deep dive encourages us to question what we assume to be true about the world. We often think of space as empty, matter as solid, the universe as just a bunch of separate objects. But what if, like Howard and Haramein suggest, this emptiness is actually the source of everything, a field of pure potential where all matter and energy comes from?
That's definitely a mind-blowing concept. It makes you rethink reality itself, seeing the universe not as separate things, but as this interconnected web of energy and information.
And that shift in perspective, it can be really powerful. It opens up new possibilities, inspires us to explore, and reminds us there's always more to learn, more to discover.
So what does this mean for someone listening, who might be feeling overwhelmed by all these big ideas? What can they take away from this?
Well, the most important thing is to remember this is a journey, not a destination. You don't need to be a quantum physics expert or understand every symbol to appreciate the flower of life.
It's more about being curious, asking questions, exploring different views, and seeing the world with new eyes.
Exactly. And who knows? Maybe this deep dive has sparked something in you. Maybe you want to learn more about sacred geometry or dive into the mysteries of the universe. Maybe it's inspired you to see patterns and connections in your own life, to see the world as a more interconnected and meaningful place.
That's what we hope for with the deep dive. To spark your curiosity, make you think about the big questions, and inspire you to keep exploring on your own.
So keep an open mind, stay curious, and never stop exploring. You never know what amazing discoveries are waiting for you.
And with that, we're wrapping up this deep dive into the flower of life. It's been a wild ride, full of twists and turns and some serious mind-bending ideas, but we hope you enjoyed the journey and that you'll continue to explore the mysteries of the universe with us. Until next time, keep searching, keep questioning, and keep those imaginations going.